I don't like religion, but I love, well, dot, dot, dot. So last week, we went through a few things. We figured out that there's about 5 or so core reasons why people don't like religion. And you know what? Those reasons are reasons that we don't like religion either, okay? We understand that people say, I don't like religion. They're really saying, I don't like how it feels. I don't like how it feels. I don't like the fact that I feel like I'm not good enough for God. I don't like feeling as though I'm being taken advantage of. I don't like feeling like I'm spiritually inferior, like I'm not good enough for this spiritual thing. I don't like that feeling. Anyone else feel that way or have felt that way in the past? I know that I have. I don't like feeling unintelligent about and illogical about my life decisions. I don't want to feel as though it's this thing in the cloud where it's just this mystic thing about God. I don't like feeling like I'm not intelligent in my decisions about God. So that was the first thing. I don't like how he feels. The second thing we said is that I don't like its propensity for abuse. I don't like the fact that religion sometimes lends itself, or in fact a lot of times lends itself for abuse or to abuse, right? So we hear things like, child abuse in the name of religion. We hear things like, a whole country could be abused in the name of religion, right? And you see what's going on in the world. Religious violence. There's violence happening in the world today in the name of religion. So people are saying, I don't like religion, Toby, because number one, I don't like how it feels. Number two, I don't like the fact that it has a propensity to be abused. We also talked about the fact that people say I don't like religion because I don't like my odds. There are way too many rules. There are way too many opportunities for failure here. Just when I think that I have this religion thing right, just when I feel like I'm on the right path, there's one other rule I didn't remember. There's one other rule that I forgot. I don't like my propensity, my chances. I don't like the fact that the odds are stacked against me when it comes to this. Number 4, this was where we spent a lot of time. I don't like how it works. I don't like how religion, this thing works. I don't like the fact that there is what's called the temple model, where there are sacred places, sacred texts, sacred people, and sincere followers. And there's all this mystical stuff about these sacred people who are the only ones who have the information. And you have to talk to that one sacred person to get to God, right? And we talked about the differences between the temple model and the Jesus model, right? And we talked about the fact that in the Jesus model, in the temple model, the place is the sacred place. In the Jesus model, the person is sacred, right? So, temple model, place over person. Jesus model puts person over place. Jesus is saying, it doesn't matter what piece of dirt you are standing on in the world, the person standing next to you is more important than the sacred place. I like this model. I like this model. And the only reason why anyone would refuse that Jesus model is, well, I don't know. Because the moment you are a recipient of this type of love from somebody else who says to you that you are more important than the place, you all of a sudden feel, I like that. The trouble comes when it's our turn to do that for somebody else. So, again, I don't like how it works. The temple model says that you need to go to one place to talk to one person to confess your sins, who will then pray to God for you. Jesus' model says, I am knocking on the door. I am begging for an audience. I, creator of the universe, I would love to talk to you. If you would be so kind as to give me an audience, I would like to talk to you. See, it's very different. We also talked about the fact that in the temple model, these sacred people have the key. They have the answers, the secret code to understand what God is saying. But in the Jesus model, we talked about the fact that God wants to speak to you and is doing so even right now if you just listen. And when you come to church to listen to someone like me, more than likely, if you've been listening to God, he's actually just confirming what your soul has been perceiving for a while, but probably couldn't articulate. In other words, sometimes when you're doing this right, when I'm doing this right and you're doing this right, there will be some kind of synergy between how you are feeling the deep parts of your soul about your connection with God and what you want and what I'm actually saying. God wants to speak to you. So we talked about the fact that, we don't like how it works. The final part of that was that deep down, we don't want to give up control. Yeah. The first four were external. I don't like how he feels. I don't like how it works. I don't like his propensity for abuse. The truth of the matter is, you and I don't want to give up control. And sometimes saying that we don't like religion is a perfect excuse for us to say, I don't want to give up control. I want to be my own definition of good. I want to be my own definition of right. I don't want to give up control about what is written in some book or some, I don't want to do that. Even though deep down inside, when we meet people who are actually followers of Christ, who are doing this right, we say, oh my God, that's such a lovely person. That's such a great person. I love being in that environment. So we looked at that last week, why we don't like religion. This week, we are talking about the first part of this stuff, right? If you don't like religion, what do you like? What is it? What is it that your soul actually loves? We've agreed, right, that we don't like religion. I agree with you. Neither do I. But what do you want? What does your soul really want? Well, I'll answer that question. Here's the first one. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be breaking this down. Number one, I don't like religion, but I love having a higher purpose. I love having a higher purpose. In fact, deep down, this is the stuff that really, really matters to us. No matter where you are from, no matter who you are, when it comes to your soul, deep down inside, this is not news for you. You and I want to have lives that are of a higher purpose. In fact, throughout history, you will see that there are many, in fact, all of humanity has spent time finding ways to live past their lives, to have a life of legacy. In fact, to leave something behind. Psychologists have examined this for a while. Perhaps the most famous of these will be Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow has this widely published hierarchy of needs that we talk about. We learn it in business and in psychology. In some class or the other, you've probably come across this stuff. Abraham Maslow was a famous psychologist in the last century and made a huge mark. Biggest thing he's recognized for is the hierarchy of needs. And what he says is that there is a hierarchy, right? And I think we have an image of that up, of the hierarchy of needs. He talks about the fact that at the very bottom of that, there are physiological needs about breathing, right? Food, sex, sleep, excretion, like the things, right? The perfect word in a service. I don't know how we could talk about basic needs without that, right? You have to eat, you have to go do number two, you have to pee. Basic needs, we all have those needs, right? Then there are needs of safety and security. We all want that. No matter where we are in the world, no matter where we live in the world, we want that. Security of your body, your employment, your resources, your morality, family, health, all those things. We want safety and security. Then more important, and these are getting more and more important as we go, love and belonging. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, you want these things. You want these things, right? Friendship, family, intimacy, sense of connection. We want these things natural. Then there's self-esteem. Self-esteem. Self-esteem is critical for us. And he's right. Abraham Maslow was right. We all want that. Because you see, it's very hard to meet your self-esteem needs when your physiological needs have not been met. It's very hard to have your love and belonging needs met, or for that to be a priority for you when your physiological needs have not been met. But the highest part, he says, and he's onto something here, is that your highest needs are needs of what's called self-actualization. That's when you're living, as we like to call it, your best self, right? The highest version of yourself, the highest version of your life is what he says is that self-actualization. And that's when your creativity is at its peak, when you can be spontaneous, when you are solving problems, when you're making an impact in the world, when the things you do in this life will outlive you, when you feel that when you wake up in the morning, your life is living purpose. That is self-actualization. Now, here's some problems with that. because these are right. And there's a hierarchy here, right? As it goes up, that this is the highest need, self-actualization. I don't think that's wrong. But there's a problem with how we evaluate what it means to have a sense of purpose. He says that this is the order. Again, I don't think it's wrong, but there's some problems with that. Let's dive into that. The problem number one with this model, this idea that if I just meet these needs, if I just get a good job, then I need to live in a good neighborhood, then I have new friends, and then I do something creative, and then I give a grant or something to a charity to outlive me. Like this is the formula for life. There's a problem with that. Here's problem number one. Many people do this by what they give. You've seen this, right? Somebody is made a lot of money, and then they sign off some huge amount to some charity, right? Or they start a foundation. I like that one. They start a foundation. It's really, really good. It touches our heart because what these people are trying to do is they're trying to live a life of purpose. What they're saying is, I've lived 50 years of my life. I've done so many things, started so many companies, done all these great things. What does all that mean? What is the real value of that? So guess what? Now they start to chase something. I got to start a foundation. I got to give a charity. I got to start a school. I got to do something so that when I go, when I die, when I leave this earth, there's something that stays behind. Everybody is in pursuit of that self-actualization. But there's a problem. Many people do this by what they give. My question is, what if you don't have a lot to give? I mean, we see this stuff. I mean, the billionaires and millionaires who start this foundation. What about the fact, what if you don't have a lot to give? What if you have no money? What if the trajectory of your life has not allowed you to have this excess of funds to start this charity or foundation or stuff like that? What if what you leave behind gets mismanaged? I mean, you know what? That's it. I'm going to leave $3 billion to charity. And then that charity gets a crook to manage those funds. And this thing that you put your name behind, that you say is the reason why you're going to be remembered, is your big hoorah, goes down the toilet. So really, what was that purpose? What if the way you try to make a difference is no longer relevant 20 years from now? So it gets managed properly. It's great. The building is still there. But the relevance of it, the impact that it was supposed to make, what you thought about, what if that is no longer relevant 25 years from now? Now what? See, it's good to attempt to live a legacy, to live a life of purpose. But the ways that we do that, there are problems with this. What about this? Many people do this by who they select to help. But what if the audience you select to help doesn't need any more help 30 years from now? Many people do this based on how far they can project into the future. Meaning people think, what will the future look like and what will we need in the future? But here's the idea. You and I know that what's hot today is not hot 20 years from now. What was hot 40 years ago is no longer hot right now. There are problems with this. The reality of the matter is that it's not just about changing how things work, it's about having spiritual impact. We can change how things work, but if we don't change people who work in that system, then the system can't be sustainable. In other words, if people don't change from the inside out, then no matter what structure you put in place, that is still in danger. It's the people who operate in that structure, in that environment, in that community, in that country, in that culture that need to change. However you dice it, however you think of this, we want to matter. You and I, we want to be significant. And the religious model, the temple model, it says that your life begins to matter after you die and go to paradise or heaven or nirvana or wherever. The idea there is that you have to do all these nice things here, and then when you die, something happens to your life. Your life now begins to find purpose then, or you'll be remembered, or you'll go enjoy the benefits of what you do here somewhere else. it's almost like it's a postponement of your sense of purpose. What God wants you to know, what Christ, through that relationship with Jesus Christ, what he wants you to know is that your relevance begins now. See, this is a difference that just blows my mind. That's why I love being a follower of Christ, because every day I wake up, I am reminded that the value of my life doesn't get postponed till some later. I mean, yeah, there's a heaven. Don't get me wrong. Okay, it's very real. Okay, because I don't think I just evolved from an ape. I just, when I wake up in the morning, I feel as though somebody created. I know that I was perfectly formed, created, thought about every hair on my head. And the same applies to you, by the way. So there is a heaven. But what God is trying to say is that your value, the value of your life, doesn't get postponed till then. That there's value in it now. Now. Here's the best part of that. It's not just in a way that makes you kind of feel good, because that kind of stuff makes you feel good, right? Like your value starts now. But I'm here to tell you that it's not just in a way that makes you feel good, but in a way that actually can change the history of this nation, the history of your community, the history of your family. I'm talking about God partnering with you in a way that can change the trajectory of the place that you're in. Now you're thinking, Tobi, really? Chill out. I know you're doing this God thing. Really, really, I got it. I promise you. The best analogy I have for this right now is the story of my boy Joe. You ever met my boy Joe? If I were to write a story about Joe, it would be Joseph, the disposable boy that became indispensable. That's my boy Joe. Joe has an amazing story in the Bible. Now, I know some of us have either never read this part in the Bible or never read the Bible at all, which that's great. I encourage you to pick up a Bible on the phone or something and just look up this story. And it happens from Genesis, I think, chapter 37. From Genesis chapter 37 all the way to like 40, 45 or so. Okay, just to read this story. It's a great story. Right? If you love to read, you'll enjoy this. Now, before I get into this, let me give you a brief synopsis about the life of Joe, my boy, my main doubt, my boy, Joe. Inspiring. Here's what happens. Joseph is 17. Joseph gets kidnapped by his own brothers. Now, if you ever watched like a soap opera, you ever watch, those crazy shows like what are a few soap operas out there? Clearly I don't watch soap operas. Yes, Days of Our Lives, or those ones that the stories are just crazy and stuff, right? This one would blow those out of the water. It's the perfect soap opera. It'll last for years on a TV show. You ever see those shows last for like 10 years? This one would last forever. Here's what happens. So at 17, this guy gets kidnapped by his own brothers. He gets sold. In fact, what they attempt to do is they try to kill this guy. They try to murder their own brother, blood brother. This is crazy. Same father. They try to murder this guy. They finally decide, by some stroke of God's intervention, to sell him into slavery. They sell him into slavery. He gets bought by some guy in Egypt. This guy buys Joseph. By the way, when you think about the mental position of Joseph, right? So you're a guy, you're 17, you get sold by your brothers into slavery. I know that we are not experiencing the brunt of that globally now, but just imagine if that happened to you. This is not some people who just captured you and you're like, oh my goodness, if my brothers were here, they'd come save me. Because it's those brothers who sell you into slavery. This is where he's at. He gets bought by this guy in Egypt whose wife attempts to seduce Joseph. he disagrees and does not want to do that because it's not right. And she gets him thrown into jail for a crime he did not commit. So you get sold into slavery by your brothers. You get framed by your boss's wife. He then gets to jail and meets somebody who actually knows the king. Now, for the first time, I can just imagine the sense of hope that he would have. Imagine you get into this position, you get framed, you get thrown in jail for a crime you didn't commit, and you finally meet somebody who knows the king, who is also in jail, and you buddy up with that person. You help them do something that they could not have done by themselves. It's not just anything. What you do for that person in jail is actually part of what helps them to get their job with the king back. So you're thinking, you're guaranteed, like, yo, when this guy gets there, he's going to say something nice about me. And the king is going to come release me because clearly I didn't do what they said I did. Joseph gets forgotten. It's one thing when tragedy hits you by surprise. I mean, you just wake up in the morning and your life is just out of whack. You're sold into slavery. I mean, it's bad enough to have that. But when you have hope for something, everyone ever have hope before you apply for a job and they're like, oh my God, yeah, we love you. It's great. We're calling you tomorrow. Just get ready. You're going to start on Monday. And then crickets. Or like, you ever have a relationship you start and you're like, oh my God, this is great. This is wonderful. We're going to be there forever. And then one day you get a text message. It's not longer working for us. Or whatever. When you have hope for something and that hope gets taken away, it's tragic. This is what Joseph is going through. It gets even better or worse. I mean, the story gets better, but it gets worse for Joseph. He gets forgotten for 2 years. And then, finally, he gets remembered. He comes out of prison. He becomes the prime minister. And all this time, his brothers thought he was dead. They had forgotten him. But you see, what I'm trying to explain to you is that there is value. Remember, that's where we started from. There's value in your life now. It is not postponed till later. When Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, remembered Joseph, Joseph solved the problem for the nation of Egypt that saved their economy and provided food for that country. But now, guess who's hungry? His brothers. That whole country, their town, there is no food, so they have to come to Egypt. They have to come to that place where they sold their brother. This is all in the Bible. Totally, you should read this story if you've never read it before. It's just so inspiring. It's so wonderful to read. So they come back to Egypt. And now guess who they have to meet to ask for food? The new prime minister. You know what's crazy? They don't even recognize him. By this time, it's about 18 years later. So they come to meet the prime minister and they explain their situation. Yeah, we've come from this land. We've come from far away. This is who we are. This is our family. And we need food. And Joseph recognizes them. Because you see, you will always recognize your source of trauma. When there are people who are a trigger for you, for something that has happened in your life, you will never forget them. That's why you and I have to ask for grace, for the love of God to help us to deal with those kind of situations. Because even for Joseph, after 18 years, after his success, the Bible in that story talks about it, the fact that he broke down and just cried. But before he did that, this is what he says. That Bible verse that we had up, I feel if you can put that up, that'd be great. He says, come closer to me, Joseph said to his brothers. And when they came closer, he says, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't feel badly. Don't feel bad. Don't blame yourselves for selling me. God was behind it. God sent me here ahead of you to save lives. I mean, look at this. I mean, there's been a famine in the land now for 2 years. The famine will continue for 5 more years. neither plowing or harvesting is going on. In other words, Joseph is explaining what's going on, right? God sent me on ahead to pave the way and to make sure that there was a remnant. That means that there was still something left in the land to save your lives in an amazing act of deliverance. So you see, it wasn't you who sent me here, but it was God. He set me in a place as father to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is that king of Egypt. He set me in a place as a father to Pharaoh. He put me in charge of his personal affairs and made me ruler all over Egypt. This is the conversation. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? 18 years Joseph was on this journey. 18 years of being sold, being a slave, going to prison for a crime he did not commit, being forgotten by people in there. 18 years of this. And it finally hit him. The revelation, the idea, the inspiration, that moment hit him, and he said, no, it wasn't you. You thought you sold me. You thought that you were just doing something random. You thought that you were just being unkind. But the truth is that my life has purpose now. And the purpose was that God sent me ahead so that I could save your life. And that I could save the lives of thousands of other people. You think you moved to New York by chance? You think it was a random act for you to go to where you went to go to school, to meet the person you've met? You think that somehow your life is just this chaotic thing? I'm here to tell you that just like Joseph, it might not be coming to plan right away. This took 18 years. 18 years. And I'm here to tell you that if you just receive, if you just open up your heart, you will see that everything that's happening in your life is perfectly orchestrated. Now, were there moments where Joseph was very sad? I don't know how he didn't go into full depression. I have no idea why Joseph was not slitting his wrist in jail. I have no idea. Because if I was in his shoes, I would be freaked out. I would be in such a panic of life. I would be a mess. But he recognized what was going on. I'm here to tell you that you need to recognize that whether or not, and here's the beautiful part of this, here, perhaps the most beautiful part, I think, yes, I would have to say maybe this is the most beautiful part, is that whether or not you recognize that God is working, whether or not you have a relationship or not with God, whether or not you acknowledge that he's doing this, the truth of the matter is that you, from the moment you were born, have become so valuable to God that he has been working in your life, whether you know it or not. Whether you accept it or not. You don't get, oh man, I'm about to say something that's going to hit you on the left side of your face. So if you feel it warm, it's me slapping you with this word right now, trying to wake you in your heart. Your value to God has never reduced because of your lack of relationship with him. Your value to God has never once gone down simply because you are not having a relationship with him. This is how good he is. Because if that was you and I, if we had a friend who treated us like we treat God, peace out, buddy. See you in the next life. But the way God does it, God says, no matter what you do, I will keep helping you in this life. I will keep orchestrating your path. It won't always be pretty. It won't always be fun. It won't always be convenient. But I will never take my eyes off you. Every step you take, every breath you take. I know that's from like a Sting song, okay, right? But it's true, right? God, that's what God is saying, right? That he is there with you every step of the way. Here's the takeaway for you. 3 things you got to walk away with today. 3 things. Because you see, many people are not accepting God because they're waiting for God to do some, like magic tricks, right? They're waiting for God to do this, like, I want to believe in God, but like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm just making it on my own. I have a good job. I live in a good neighborhood. See, that's the problem, is that you're not in slavery right now, physical slavery, but what it is that our minds, you and I, we are in a place where we're not living our best lives because we are in spiritual slavery. In other words, there's a way we think about ourselves that reduces our value. And every day we think we have self-confidence because, yeah, everything is great. We're moving through life, and life is not pushing back so much. But the reality is that you are not, unless you accept this notion that the God of the universe that created all this has an interest in you, and he knows you by your name, and is working out everything. And when you pray, you know what the funny thing is? When we get in trouble, we all pray. When we think about it, when we get in trouble, in that moment, we don't say, well, I don't really want to pray because I really haven't really had a good relationship, so I mean, it's probably not gonna. No, oh my God, please help me find parking. Oh my God, please let the train not get here on time. Oh God, please, I'm running. No, God, please let them have this product in the store. I'm going to come to this store one time. I don't want to come 14 times. Oh, God, please let this person pick up. Oh, my, what are you doing? Oh, my God, please. We pray. My question is, to who? To who? I mean, you can't in one breath say, no, God, I don't, no relationship. I'm okay by myself. But I'll only go to this God when I really need something. What you and I need, is relationship. And what we're talking about today is you may not like religion, and that's okay. Neither do I. You should not, because all the reasons that you don't like religion are the reasons why I don't like religion either. But you and I, we want purpose. We want our lives to matter. And I'm here to give you the good news that it's not postponed. That just right now, even though you may not see it, right now, your life is moving through purpose. So here's the 3 points you got to walk away with. 3 takeaways. Number one, religion itself does not even get you true access to God. The truth is that God not only wants you to know that you are his partner in life, but that you are indispensable. These are 2 different things. God is not just saying that you're my partner. No, he's saying not only are you my partner, just like Joseph. Took 20 years. And Joseph had no idea. It wasn't like God said, hey, Joseph, next week you're going to go to jail. Don't worry about it. I got you, buddy. Like, cause if that happened, I'd be in jail like, what's up? Oh, you all don't know? I mean, I'm just here temporarily. God's got my back. See, if that conversation happened, I've been there 4 years. I'd be the king of that jailhouse. I'd be balling like you. You don't know who I am, but I got set here by God, okay? So I'm going to need more beans in there, okay? Yeah, this is how I would make it through jail, okay? I never want to go there because it's a little scary, but in that case, this is what would happen, right? Right? If God was every step of the way telling him the plan, the experience would be different. But God is an interesting God. He allows us to go through the experience. That is where faith comes. Because you are sitting on this chair not by faith, because you have the confidence that the chair can hold your weight. If the chair is shaky and you're sitting on this, then you have to start elevating your faith a little bit to say, oh my God, I hope this chair doesn't break. So God sometimes takes us through life and allows us to go through the struggles and doesn't tell us what's going on, not because he doesn't exist, but because he wants us to live in that moment by faith, by belief that it's going to work out. It's not because it's not there. So God says that forget religion, because religion doesn't even get you access to God. God says, you are my partner. If you live your life, oh my God, I just got it. If you live your life as though you are created by God and that God is helping you every day through life, that every moment matters, that you are living a life of purpose day by day. If you live your life that way, and I live my life that way, then in the streets of New York City, if more people live that way, what happens to crime? What happens to the things that we look at in society and say, this stuff is just terrible? What happens to them? They begin to find no outlet. So that's the first thing. Here is takeaway number 2. See, takeaway number 2 is actually very interesting to me because Albert Einstein said something that is very profound. He said, you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created that problem. This is a very profound statement. And Albert, Al, my boy Al, he was right. The truth of the matter is that you and I fundamentally understand this statement when it comes to physical things. When we apply this thing to spiritual things, it takes on a whole new life. And here's takeaway number 2, and that is the fact that the only way to truly live a life of higher purpose that lives beyond you is to live a life guided by someone who is higher than you. So, when Albert said it, he was saying that if you have a level 2 thinking that created a problem, you will need a level 3 thinking to solve the same problem. Yes? So far, so good? If a level 1 thinking, if a level 1 mentality created a problem, you have to have a thinking that is level at least 1.5 to solve that problem, right? Now, in order for you and I to live a life of higher purpose, you see where this is going? To live a life that transcends, that has purpose and value now, that means that you and I have to be guided by a mindset that is greater, transcends, bigger than human nature. Not what you and I figure out. Like, this is the best way to live a legacy. So I'm going to put a building right there and put a few $1 million there, and that's my sense of purpose. Because it's our own mind that created that. And it's our own mind that postpones the value of our life till after. God is saying your life matters right now. That's takeaway number 2. Is that in order for us, you and I, to live a life that is truly of higher purpose and to start doing that right now, not delayed, not postpone it, to start doing that right now, that you have to be guided every day by a mentality that is higher than yours. This same mentality is the one that God used, that is God, that says that Jesus Christ, when you did not even know him, would die for you. I mean, when was the last time someone walked up to you on the street and said, I don't know who you are, but I made you dinner? Like, you probably, in New York City, I'd probably be like, yeah, and you're crazy. Thank you very much. Out of here. But it's a higher thinking. And you and I, what makes our lives so beautiful is that we have the stretch capacity, the capacity to extend ourselves to reach that level of operation. It doesn't come naturally. Because you and I naturally, we don't do those things as human beings. But when we have a relationship with Jesus, it allows us to stretch our capacity to move higher and higher and higher to that level of thinking. So in order for your life to have purpose, you have to be guided by a mind that is higher than yours. The Bible explains this really well. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 25, I'll read it for us real quick, right? Or we'll use this. It says, for the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. What this is trying to tell us is that even when we think God is stupid, that stupidity that we call stupidity is wiser than the wisest decision a human being can make. Because you would think, really, God, if you were really trying to get Joseph to go ahead to save Egypt and his brother's family, a little simpler, okay? Have him, even if you had him sold, how about just give him, how about he just wants to go to school in Egypt? I mean, so much simpler, right? He becomes 17, put it in his heart that he wants to go to Egypt to study whatever, okay? When he gets there, put somebody in his dorm room who knows the king or something. I mean, it's so much simpler. This is the dumbest spending of 18 years I've ever seen in my life. You got to put the guy through this and through that and through this and through that and through. Why? Why the long road? See, it sounds foolish, right? But you see, what happens is that those 18 years of development, those 18 years of preparation, that led, by the way, if you understand the story of the children of Israel, the Jews, when they moved, they spent 400 years in slavery. And then after that, they spent another 40 years trying to get it. I mean, the whole story before they settled down in their land was almost 1,000 years. And it began with one boy. Joseph going to Egypt was the beginning of a 700-year history of a whole nation. One boy. One boy. Here is takeaway number 3, the final takeaway. The only distance between the current you and the purpose-living you is a decision. That's it. Because you don't have to worry about how. How will the next 20 years go? How will the next 18 years go? When is this going to happen? You leave that part. Because just like God did it for Joseph, he's got your back. The only thing you have to do now is to make a decision. To decide to say, I want to live this life that the doors were closed off. I wasn't really expecting that. I mean, this is not really my wheelhouse, or maybe it was, but you know what? I live in New York City. This God thing, I don't know. I think I'm doing okay by myself. I mean, it's not easy, but I'm doing okay. The only decision is to say, I'm going to open up the space a little bit more. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, or I'm going to leave here today, and I'm going to try to listen. I'm just going to try to listen for the voice of what I believe the voice of God is, and ask what it demands of me. How it wants me to treat my fellow human being. In a way, and be careful, because if you really listen, you will hear this voice. This is how it works. If you listen for this voice, you will hear it today as you walk out of here. Because that voice may say to smile at somebody. That voice may say, don't take this train, take the other train. And when you get there, you will find somebody on the platform who has not received a smile from a human being in a week. And it is your job. See, this is what I'm talking about. When we talk about this partnership, it's not this partnership for you to go and kick down doors and do all those things. It's that, oh my God, I just got it again. If we all have high value in God, and God says that you are so valuable, and you are so valuable, and you are having a bad day, and you are starting to lose touch with the reality that you are special, that you are great in His eyes, but you are having a pretty decent day. Maybe you came to Ignite, you got a great word, you're feeling inspired, and you're walking home. Then God may say, okay, great, this person's on the E train, this person's on the F train, but you know what? I'm going to speak to you. If you just listen, I'm going to have you take this train today, and you're going to meet someone, and there he is, standing beside, looking like his face is long, the whole earth is shattered, and this is New York City. Please believe me that there are people like that who just they look perfect on the outside, but are going through so much, and you could be the partner. God doesn't have to open up the skies and come down in a big thunderous voice. When He has you and I, you could be the partner that God needs to work with, so that in that moment, that person can say, wow, okay, maybe I shouldn't be having such a bad day. I'll close with this story. This wasn't in my notes, but I feel like I need to tell you this story. I was coming back from a flight. This is 2014. Coming back from Texas, from a conference. I get to the airport. I will never forget this moment. I actually have a picture of this moment. I'm walking down North Carolina's airport, huge airport. So I'm walking from one gate to the other, and there's a section in the middle where you have to cross from one side to the other. So I'm running, dashing to my gate. Now, normally, this is a terrible route to take, right? It has taken me through somewhere and somewhere else and somewhere else. My wife booked the ticket. When I saw the return, I was like, honey, why you take me through all this crazy route here? But I was like, no, whatever. So I'm making it there, and I walk past this couple. If you know the North Carolina airport, and this is in, I'm trying to remember the city. Yes, Raleigh. Yes. There's rocking chairs. There's white rocking chairs in the middle there. In North Carolina, yes, exactly, right? There's rocking chairs. You can spend that. So I was just thinking, that's kind of cool. So I walked past, and in that moment, by the way, on that flight there, I told God, I said, God, I want to live a life that hears you more, where we can have those moments, like partnership moments. This was on the flight there. I was coming from Texas, Dallas, Texas, to Raleigh, to where I was going, JFK. So I get to my midpoint in North Carolina, and I walk past this couple, and about 10 feet past them, I hear a voice in my heart, and it says, you know what? Turn around, go back, and talk to that couple. I'm thinking, it's in the middle of the airport. What the heck is that? I don't have time for this. I don't know them. So I turn around, and I stand in front of them. I'm thinking, just as I was thinking, what am I going to say? She looks up, and see that she's crying. So she's in tears. I'm still in touch with them till today. She's in tears, and the husband is trying to comfort her. I mean, it's really bad. And I just asked her, I said, how can I pray for you today? In the middle of the airport. I mean, people washing by. It's crazy. How can I pray for you today? And she says, I just want God to forgive me of my sins. I said, I'd love to pray with you. So I hold her hand, and hold her husband's hand, middle of the airport. Never done this before. And I prayed. And she, you should have seen her face afterwards. As I walk towards my gate, they finally come and meet me there again. And she tells me, she said, you know, I want you to know that what you did, that moment, was life-changing for me. I was like, really, it's not that serious. I was kind of nervous. I was kind of fighting it, so I'm not really all that. No, she said, no, really. She said, what you said to me, how you prayed for me, my family members have been telling me that for months. But I didn't find space to accept what they were saying because I figured they're my family and friends. They've got to sound positive, right? But when a complete stranger that I've never met before walks past, comes back, looks me in the eye, and tells me those words, now I feel as though I can actually receive that and actually move forward with my life because I've been feeling down for so long. That, folks, that is the type of partnership that I am talking about. Talk about a life of higher purpose. This is not about erecting some building somewhere, giving money to charity, or doing some big stuff. I'm asking you to make a decision today as you walk out of here to just open up your heart a little bit to say, if this whole God thing is true, I'm going to listen for a voice of love and kindness. I'm going to listen for it, and I'm going to attempt to do what it tells me to do, as uncomfortable and as unnatural as it will be. Because it will be unnatural. Because in order for you to solve a problem that a level 2 thinking created, you have to have a mind that is higher. So as I invite the band to come back, and maybe Jenna to take us through a song or something, I want you all to just focus on that and just ask yourself, am I open to making that decision? Do I want to make 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 that decision? So just think about that. Just for a couple minutes as they take us on this song, just think about that. Just pretend like no one is here and just enjoy, just sink into that moment.